QR code when you leave if you want that presentation. Otherwise, we can just start.
Yeah, let's get it going.
Okay, all right. Thanks everybody for coming. This is the second time we've done this today. We are doing a session on tips and tricks from renewals. My name is Matt Heldstab. I am the Vice President of VMUG and a Systems Engineer for the Minnesota State Colleges and Universities. And this is Tamika. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure. Good afternoon, Tamika McKay. I am also a member of the board, and I'm a CIO for the city of Fort Lauderdale. Many of you been to Fort Lauderdale? Been with the city for 3 years, and our IT department is about 75 employees, and we are responsible for all of the technology ecosystem and digital services for the city, including public safety, airport, and so forth.
All right. My name is Justin Sider. I'm the Chief Information Officer of Blade Technologies. We're a large VMware customer. We've been a large VMware customer for about 15 years. We're based out of Columbia, Maryland. I'm personally located in San Antonio, Texas, which is a lot like the dry air here. So happy to be here. Let's get this.
Absolutely. Yeah. So as you guys all know, there are some changes, if you haven't heard, with licensing. Almost everybody in this room probably was using perpetual licenses up until recently. Any renewals that have been done in 2024 more than likely are done with subscription. Oh, there we go. All right.
Fixed it.
Nice. Good job. So let's, we can stick it right back here. There. Oh, never mind. One more.
It's not actually.
It's not working now. Okay, that's fine. We'll just leave it on this one. So we're going to do a little bit of a conversation with some of our tips and tricks that we've discovered through our journey from perpetual licensing to subscription licensing. So the first thing I'll do is I'll ask Tamika to go over some of the tips and tricks that she has to this point in navigating that journey. Tamika?
Sure. Thank you, Matt. So when I heard about the change, if I can be completely honest, I think I went through the 7 stages of grief because, as many of you, I grew up on VMware, been using it for 15 years. It's been really an instrumental role in my career. It was kind of the catalyst from moving from a help desk technician to a systems engineer to an IT manager to CIO. So obviously change is sometimes difficult and it's disruptive, but change can also be good. We had a very interesting experience at the city of Fort Lauderdale because along with the change, we had a 1 in 1,000 year flood. We had 26 inches of rain in a 6-hour period. Our building flooded, lost my main data center, and then 3 months later, we lost our second data center, which was at our police headquarters because of an environmental issue. And then in the middle of that, as a fairly new CIO, we had put together a 3-year modernization transformation plan to address a lot of the technical debt and modernize some of the legacy technology. So all of this combined kind of put us in a really interesting scenario because we were able to, once we went through the modernization and the data center consolidation process, we consolidated from 30 hosts to 15 hosts. So although we haven't received our numbers yet for our renewal is up in January of 2025. Based on some of the peers and information that I've received, folks are seeing about a 300% increase if they're not taking advantage of the opportunity to optimize, take a look at your environment, consolidate, reduce. We had over 100 servers that we didn't even bring up after the flood, that it's been 1.5 years and we've gotten no calls from folks. So there's obviously been some waste. And again, when you have an environment with a lot of technical debt, this can be a golden opportunity for you. So although we haven't received our quote yet, we are expecting it to be slightly higher, but not very much after reducing the environment to about 50%. One thing that my engineer did share was that he wasn't sure what the issue would be if we didn't pay the licensing. And talking to Matt, I feel a lot better about knowing that VMware will work with you. And I actually look forward to taking the opportunity to upgrade our environment to make it more resilient and hopefully leverage some of the tools that we haven't in the past with VCF.
Yeah, absolutely. From what I've heard, if you're trying to get that contract done and the delay is either on the VAR side or Broadcom, even if you expire, they'll still work with you to continue support if you're making the effort.
Thanks.
Justin, you care to talk about your experience so far?
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So I had a similar experience without natural disaster. So our program was going through a 18-month transition, and we were kind of caught blindsided by all of this, right? We knew the acquisition was coming, but we didn't know exactly what that meant for us moving forward. We're required for VCF. We are required to buy VCF based on how our organization runs our department. But I'm here to tell you that I had a really great experience. Through after the acquisition, there were some layoffs, there were some rifts. Some of our sales team didn't exist anymore, but we were able to quickly identify the people that we needed to talk to. We were able to get quotes in a timely manner. We were able to get updated quotes in the timely manner. And part of our 18-month journey, as we're going to talk about some of our tips and tricks a little bit later, we found that we could become more efficient inside of our data center. So while we know that the price was going to go up per core, what if we could reduce the number of cores that we're running? So a lot of our transition over that 18-month period was to ramp down the amount of hardware we had, which means we have to buy less licensing. And like I said, the response time during that evolution, during those 8 to 10 months of uncertainty, our sales team was interacting with us. They were giving us assurance of we will have the numbers when they can get them. They explained to us that the system was down for them. The third parties that we were interacting with to talk to our sales, well, it's kind of like a weird relationship, but everyone was communicating to us what was going on and why we couldn't get quotes in a timely manner. So we know there's a lot of bad press out there, but we had a very good experience and we made it through it. So
that's great. So for me, we are about 5 months away from doing our renewal, but I'm in a special situation because I work for the system office, the main office that handles all the central IT systems for a system of higher education that is the third largest system of 2- and 4-year schools in the country. We have 32 campuses and about 300,000 students. And all of those schools have their own staff with their own internal environments and their own VMware contracts. And so they are expiring and renewing ahead of ours. So I've actually had a lot of experience gathering information from what they've gone through, what's worked and what hasn't worked. And now I'm actually working with the rest of the schools to right-size their infrastructure. So right-sizing is something that I highly recommend you do before you engage with your account team for your renewal. For example, if you log into vCenter, you look at a cluster and it's using 10% of CPU, I guarantee that cluster is going to be a lot more expensive than it needs to be. So either buying new hardware, and that is true. Some people that are up for hardware renewals have bought systems with fewer cores, and they can partially fund the compute refresh with the reduction in price from their VMware contract. That's actually a strategy that's worked pretty well. But if you're not ready to renew your compute, what you can do is look at things like moving a CPU or pulling a CPU out of your server. If you pull a CPU from every single server you have, that'll reduce your contracts in half, obviously. And then you might need to move the RAM from that CPU over to the other CPU if you have space. If you don't, then you might not be able to pull that CPU if all of your sticks are full, or you just need to sacrifice the RAM for the sake of the contracts. So those are some of the tips and tricks that we'll see. First of all, a show of hands here. Who is still on perpetual and has not gone subscription yet? Okay, and who has gone subscription? Okay, and out of the subscription folks here, is anybody on vSphere Plus? Okay, so vSphere Plus, I've got great news for you guys, right? So you probably went through the whole perpetual to vSphere Plus scenario, right? Where you had a new vCenter just for vSphere Plus, and you had to swing the host over, right? So that is not going to happen anymore. So when you are perpetual or the new subscription, it's the same vCenter, because it's not like there's a communication with the cloud. My presentation here Has a whole lot of information on the differences between vSphere Plus and the new subscription model. There is no cloud call. It does not connect up to validate your licenses. You do your subscription, and you get keys, just like Perpetual, and you throw them on vCenter, and you can coexist. You can use Perpetual with subscription, and it works fantastic. So that's important to know. Out of the rest of you that are on subscription, who did VCF? So we've got 2 VCF. Okay, and then VVF? Okay, so you got both. All right. Okay, well, great. And there's probably a lot of people that don't want to share. That's fine. But anyway, my point was that between VCF and VVF, there are a lot of differences that you have to take into account, especially if you're a vSAN customer, because you only get a specific amount of an entitlement for vSAN if you are on VVF versus VCF. VCF, you get 1 TB raw per core available to you entitled. So if you, let's just say, have 1,000 cores, right? You're entitled to 1,000 TB, which is not quite a terabyte, but it's about a terabyte, 1,000 TB raw. If you are on VVF, you only get 1/10 of that. And a lot of times that's not enough. And so you either need to buy a VVF add-on to get that 1 TB to entitle you to your full vSAN capacity, or you need to go VCF. And honestly, VCF can be cheaper than VVF. So that might shock you, but when you reach out to your teams and you want a quote for VVF, say, and if the price is right, send me a quote for VCF too, because they're more empowered to discount VCF than they are VVF. And they want to sell it. Listen to Hawk in the keynote. It's all about VCF, right? That's what they want to do, and they're going to try and work with you. So
Matt, why don't we ask the other Justin to come up and share his experience?
I think his actual name is Justin 2.
Justin 2?
Justin 2? Justin 1? Justin 2.
Hi, I'm the other Justin.
Is your mic on?
I know it is.
Can
you guys hear it?
No? What about now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Excellent.
All right.
I'm the other Justin. I am from Beacon Credit Union in Wabash, Indiana. We had our renewal right as Broadcom acquisition took over. So we were right in the middle of the scramble. Initially, our quote came in way over. They gave us a huge VCF deployment. We use vCenter and ESXi. Those are the only 2 products we actually currently use. We worked with our VAR, and they went through and got us a new quote for VVF. And it actually came in at that 10 to 20% that we'd expect most SaaS services to be doing every year. Now, there's an asterisk on the end of that. We got the 10 or 20% because we did a multi-year option. So we got a 1, a 3, and a 5-year. Our 1 year and our 3 year were almost the same price. They were not very far off because that's how much they discount you to do the 3 or 5 year program. So make sure when you're working with your VAR, you are looking at that extended time period and looking at how much you can save by buying it for a longer term, which is what we typically see anyways. Because it was just like anyone probably in the crowd, when the whole Broadcom thing happened, we were all kind of on the fence anyways. So we're all going through that rigmarole. And I'm personally the reason why she hasn't got her quote back, because they are prioritizing customers who have expirations, either expired or currently expiring. Her expiration date's farther out than mine, so I got my quote first.
I've been waiting since March.
So, thanks, Justin.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Does anybody have a question right now? Yeah.
Guys, any of you guys have to look at
So we were not in the camp of looking at alternatives. We have so much proficiency. We have 4 staff, 3 dual VCP staff members and 1 single VCP staff member. And to be honest with you, the way that we do RBAC, row-based access control, some of the other alternatives just don't do it the same way. And it's very, very difficult to have the same security posture. And then the other products just aren't proven. The vendor ecosystem is just not there. So if you want to have a Veeam and the Veeam to back up your system, they don't integrate with some of these other ones. We don't want to talk too much about competitors, but XCP-NG, I think the maximum disk you can use is 2 terabytes. That does not work for us at all. And so there are way too many issues with the other feature sets in the other hypervisors to even consider it. We didn't even look that much at it. Did you guys at all?
Well, we certainly entertained it. And I'll be honest with you, after coming here and seeing the vision and hearing the why and seeing the roadmap for VMware, I'm pretty certain that we're probably going to be on VMware for at least the next 3 years. But a moment of transparency, did I consider it initially when I heard about the news? Absolutely. But to Matt's point, there's nothing out there that's as mature, that has the integration, that has the stability. And if you're running critical work, that's what you want. You want ease of use. And another thing which resonated with me during Hock's presentation is how many of you have dealt with the finger pointing? It's the network, it's the storage, it's the hypervisor, and moving towards a simplified solution, and hate to say this, but having one throat to choke, to me, that sounds attractive.
It's an interesting analogy. I gotta digest that for a second. For our organization, no, we haven't considered alternatives yet. Our core integration is an application that directly interfaces with VMware. So the cost for us to re-engineer our entire solution around a different hypervisor or hypervisor stack is preventative and far more than it would be to work through the licensing. So I just kind of want to bring it back to some of our tips and tricks, which is what the presentation was about. So no, I mean, some of the things that we talked about in our last session was around right sizing, and Matt mentioned it. Prior to the new subscription model, you would want to pay attention to not having processor. Well, the maximum CPU count was 32 before you had to buy an additional license for that server, right? So that's gone away. So now you have the ability to capture cost savings by potentially buying larger servers, more compute-intensive servers, but less of those servers, right? So you're not paying for more disks, you're not paying for more hardware, you're reducing your footprint overall, right? So we're just trying to help you guys, look at the places where if you're going through a re-engineering effort, you might be able to kind of cut costs on the hardware side to allow for savings on the software side as well.
Yeah, and one of the things that you can do, it's up to you for your SLAs and your comfortability, but everybody's aware of the differences between N+1 and N+2 in your cluster, right? N+1, you lose a host, all your workloads can run. N+2, while you're patching a host, you lose another host, you're fine, right? So maybe you just decide N+1 is fine. And then you just have one fewer server. Maybe you buy bigger servers, because that's what happens when you scale up and you make larger servers, fewer larger servers. You need to make sure your high availability is still in check where you want it to be. If you have a 3-node cluster instead of a 4, obviously you're not going to be able to probably do N+2 the same way as you would have. So, but those are all things that you can make a decision in your environments.
I also think it's important to not believe the hype. There's a lot of hype out there. There's a lot of folks that are capitalizing on the moment, and do your homework. It doesn't have to be a sticker shock. You might have to do a little work and some optimizing, but you should be doing that anyway. So I would say stay away from the hype, do your homework, and really understand what's best for your environment and what your priorities are. My priority is high availability and ease of use. So those boxes are checked for me.
Those are good ones. Yeah.
So coming from education, higher education in the region of Mexico, VMware has been traditionally very good at giving us really good deals. What kind of commitment are you seeing from VMware to continue supporting higher education?
Good question. So for those of you that couldn't hear, what kind of commitment has Broadcom made to academic systems and higher education due to the fact that academic licensing is no longer what it was? There's two parts to that. Number one is the IT Academy, the VMware IT Academy. That is going away. If you guys are a member of an institution that has an academy, I hope you renewed before the 15th of August, and then you get 1 year, and then the system goes away. And then you have to do something different, or maybe buy VVF or VVS, and then just go from there. In terms of your regular infrastructure, what I am seeing is that if you make a case to Broadcom, especially in higher ed, I just had a meeting with my director of US SLED, right? I'm in higher education. And he said, we will work with you. If you're on board to committing to be with us, we will help you. And that might mean that they will help you get back to a closer quote to what it used to be. They're not going to hit you super hard. They understand that you're coming from a place where it was cheaper, and maybe cheaper than other places. And they're going to help. They're not going to be the same as it was before. I mean, there are some crazy stories out there, people paying less than $1 a core for years. I mean, that's just not going to happen anymore. They're trying to fix that, and they probably should have fixed it a long time ago, to be honest with you. But they'll definitely work with you.
We have an education stack where we use VMware to teach like other classes, not VMware, but other classes around computers.
Yeah.
And we're hoping to actually be able to bring that back. So the idea is getting the user interface of VMware in front of students who then get used to that and expect that when they graduate and go out to the industry.
Correct. Yeah. So work with your teams, give them your scenario. If you're in a shortfall, one of my schools has an $18 million shortfall. They went to Broadcom and they got an amazing deal, one of the best deals I've seen. They worked with them, so they will do that. Yeah, good question. That's something that is in this PowerPoint. I have a really in-depth slide on that. So there are two other options.
What was the question, Matt?
What's that?
What was the question?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Thank you. Okay, Robo licensing. Anybody here using vSphere Robo? Oh, wow, we got a few. Yeah, it's not good. It's not great. So for those of you that don't know Robo, it's not licensed by the socket or the core. It's licensed by the VM. You buy a 100 pack of VMs, you can slice it across as many hosts as you want. That's changed. Now you need to use a different tier of licensing, or you can use, I think it's called Edge Compute Cluster, I think is what it is. There's another, it was actually at the keynote. It's not managed by vCenter. It's a different solution. It may not be a good fit, but it's an option. And then there's another one that they're talking about more. It's called VCF Edge. And I've heard rumors, not from anybody at Broadcom, rumors that the price of VCF Edge, which can be used with as few as 2 hosts at a site, the price is a third to half of the price of VCF. So it's a little bit of a price break, but again, that's completely unofficial, just rumor, right? So I don't even know if it's GA yet. I think it is, but I haven't heard much about it. So, but good question. Anybody else? Yeah.
Did any of you see yourselves actually making compromises or having like reduction in redundancy or resiliency across your hosts as servers like VM versus just so that just for the end goal of reducing the price of the
that's what I was getting to about N+1 versus N+2. That is something that really ends up happening. You can do that. You can just decide that what we have is good enough in DR. You don't have to have N+2 on your DR site with nothing running there necessarily, right? I mean, it might be kind of a waste of money, but these are the kinds of decisions that you can make to help make the contract work. Yeah.
Yeah, I think taking a step back to your question, right? He asked if any of us were willing to make a sacrifice in order to potentially cut that check, right? And what I would say is I'm not. But what we did over the past 18 months is we kind of took a step back, right? And we said, what is it that our goals are? What are our requirements in order to deliver the solutions that our customers need, right? Where can we cut corners? Where can we become more efficient as an organization in order to reduce our overall costs? And that's not just VMware licensing. It's hardware, it's storage, it's backup licensing, right? Every one of us probably has, a line item of how many different products that we pay for, whether it be one-time, subscription-based, or year-over-year, not in a subscription-based model, right? So luckily, I'm in a position where I get to see the full breadth of it. Some of you may not be in that position, but go talk to those people. Talk to the engineers. Talk to the teams that are building your infrastructure from a very high level and start to drive down the requirements and understand whether or not your solution is right-sized.
Yeah. Okay, I think we're about out of time. Really quick, one plug for 2 events that me personally, that I am speaking at. I'll be in Boston on September 19th and in Dallas on October 24th. So those are our VMware VMUG user conferences, the user cons, right? Anybody from Boston or Dallas in here at all? Awesome. Maybe we'll see you at one of those events. Yeah, so I'll be doing the presentation that is on that QR code. So it's about a 50-minute presentation. And Hawk Tan will be there at both of those events. So bring them your questions if you have questions. We will be on the side here if anybody has additional questions. Looking forward to chatting with you. But thank you so much for coming. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.